Hi guys, I hope you're all well. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce you to my colleague, Dr. Phil. He's our resident fish whisperer. Dr. Phil, introduce yourself there.
Good morning everyone. My name is Philip. They call me as Dr. Phil. We're here to teach you about how to look after fish.
Today we'll be teaching you how to set up a fish tank. The tank we'll be using today is a 1 meter elegance. We'll show you what equipment will be needed as well. But before we get started with this here, a couple points I'd like to highlight from my earlier video. Number one, please make sure you cycle your tanks first, guys. It's very important that the tank builds enough bacteria before you add fish, and also get your water tested first. The second point I'd like to highlight is ensure that you have sufficient and adequate biological media. This will provide a house and a home for bacteria to live, which is very important when setting up an ecosystem. The last point I'd like to make is that there is no such thing as a ready-made fish tank. Any tank that you buy that comes with filtration is not enough. You will need to add more filtration. Okay, having said that, let's start today's video. So today we have a beautiful high gloss black fish tank. With this tank here, the difference is we have a starfire glass. So the glass is more clearer compared to the normal fish tanks. This tank also has an overflow hole and a sump filtration system included. Philip, would you like to explain to the people how the sump filter works?
Yes, it's easy to connect the sump filter. And the sump filter is the main filtration system. If you didn't pick it right, it's not gonna work.
So the first thing I'd like to introduce you guys to with respect to this fish tank is a background picture. Okay, today we've chosen a simple blue background picture. Okay, the reason for that is it's plain and simple, but also makes the tank look a lot deeper. The next piece of equipment I'd like to introduce you to is our heater. Okay. Generally speaking, a 300 watt heater for these size tanks will be sufficient. It's generally 1 watt per liter. So for example, if you have a 300 liter tank, you'll need a 300 watt heater. The next two pieces of equipment are our internal filters. Okay, remember guys, what I said earlier, there is no such thing as a ready-made fish tank. So although this tank has a sump filter, we have still added 2 internal filters.
The internal filters is most important because it helps to circulate your water. The water, if it's not clean, it means that whatever you're eating, the food, what you're eating in the system, does go down in the floor and won't get the filtration. That is start to build up the ammonia in the system.
Also, another key thing about internal filters is that they polish the water just a little bit. They trap all that fine dirt and all that fine particles and help. They're basically the turbos to the engine. The next thing we'd like to talk about is the gravel. Today we've chosen a simple brown gravel, a natural look. To go with the tank. It kind of highlights the blue and the black a little bit more, but you do have other options. You get black, you get white, you get fine black, fine white, you even get a fine brown. So guys, this is purely aesthetic and it's up to you. You can decide what you like. Try and make everything look a little bit more natural. When choosing a gravel for the tank, it's important to understand what fish you're putting into the tank. For example, if you're putting South American fish or parrotfish to be more specific, you'll find that that particular fish or those types of fish will move the gravel from one point of the tank to another point of the tank. It's just natural and that's what they do. You can't fight to them about it. It's how they are. So if you are gonna have those type of fish, try and choose a bigger stone or bigger gravel so that they don't move it around. But if you are okay with that, then it's perfectly fine. Guys, for the next part of this video, Philip will explain to you guys how a sump filter works.
As we say, the sump filter, you top up your tank, you don't look the level of the water in the tank. The level of the water when using the sump, you have to take it on your sump filter by the return pump, because it's where the water is gonna drop the level. And if you don't notice that, you end up burning up your pump.
The water will flow from the tank through the overflow into the piping. The piping leads down into the sump filter. From the sump filter, it will go under over, under again, into the last chamber where the pump is, and the pump will suck the water and push the water back into the tank. Okay, before we carry on with this video, one thing we forgot to mention is gravel. Please guys, wash and rinse the gravel before you put it into your tank. This is very important because if you don't do that, your tank will be extremely milky and dirty and you won't know why. So please wash your gravel first. The next aspect we're going to talk about is lighting. Okay, with respect to lighting, it's important to understand what you are doing first. Whether you're having just a normal fish tank, where you're keeping South American fish, Malawi fish, or just plain Jane community fish, or where you're gonna have a planted tank or a saltwater tank. Now you'll find if you're gonna have a planted tank, the lighting is more specific and serves a purpose, as with saltwater as well. The lighting has a purpose and you need specific lighting. But if you're just doing a normal fish tank, lighting is more for aesthetics. Another key point about lighting is you should not have more than 6 to 8 hours lighting per day in total, as too much lighting will result in too much algae growth, as algae is a plant which feeds off light. Too much light, too much algae. It goes hand in hand.
I guess now the main work started. When you start up before you fill up your tank, make sure wherever you put in your tank, it must be 100% level, because if it's unlevel, what's gonna happen is gonna break your base and you get the equipment damaged. And the main thing, also make sure it's not wobbling. Once the tank is 100% level, don't use the water level because that is not the right way. Make sure you shake in your tank a little bit, that it mustn't wobble. If it's not wobbling, and you know your tank is on the right level.
Also, it's important to note that check if your tank is level also after you fill your tank, because that's when the weight sets in. Guys, we're starting to set up the tank now. Before we do that, we'll just like to complete the setup of the sump. As you guys can see, we've already put biological media inside the sump. Over here, we've got bioceramic rings, we've got biospheres and bioceramic tubes. The next thing that's going in is filter matting. The filter matting is important because this traps the dirt. This is what you'll be cleaning all the time. The biological media is what will stay dirty. You don't want to be cleaning that or disrupting what's happening with respect to that. However, the filter matting is what you'll be cleaning all the time. Now you'll see your sump's broken up into 3 chambers. 1, 2, 3. If you ever clean one chamber, don't ever clean the other 2 chambers. So what I'm saying is keep alternating. Clean one, leave 2 dirty. Clean one, leave 2 dirty. And whenever you're cleaning the filter matting, use the same dirty water that you've taken out from the tank. Don't ever wash it under the tap. It's very important because the chlorine in the tap water will kill the bacteria that's in the filter matting, and basically you'll have to start your biological load and your ecosystem all over again in your sump filter. Now you get different types of filter matting. Today we're just using the normal average filter matting, but you get 3 types. You get a very coarse one, a very fine one, and just the normal one that takes the beating. The normal one that takes the beating is the one that we use today, is what you'll be washing and replacing all the time. However, the coarse one you'll find will also store bacteria and will trap big particles, and the fine one is what will help polish the water and trap the fine particles.
When you add in the filter matting, make sure don't squeeze it too tight. It must be a little bit loose that the water can go through it.
Okay, so now we're gonna set up the tank and speak about decor. So it's important to understand what type of fish you're going with, so that the decor can kind of match that fish. Today we're gonna do a mix of about South American cichlids. So that's what the purpose of this tank is. We're gonna do semi-aggressive stuff. For example, stuff like silver dollars, tinfoils, and more particularly earth eaters. Now, some of those fish will get big eventually and you will have to upgrade. So taking into account those type of fish, we're gonna need some rock and we're gonna need some wood. The earth eaters like a little bit of higher pH, but can also live in lower pH, but I'd like to keep them in a higher pH because it just makes it simpler and easier going forward, as you find that it becomes easier to maintain. So the rock we're gonna choose for today's installation is a base rock. It's designed to keep your pH a little bit higher, and we're gonna mix it up with a little bit of wood because South American fish come from those rivers where the wood are found. All right, let's check. Okay, let's speak about what's happening here a little bit. Okay, so the first thing you would have noticed is me and Philip have chosen to opt with fake plants. Now the reason for it is, back to the original discussion, what is the tank being used for? The tank is going to be used for silver dollars, tin foils and earth eaters. Now you'll find silver dollars will eat live plants. So there's no point in putting live plants in here, they'll just get eaten up by the silver dollars. So that'll be a complete waste. Now the next thing you would have noticed is Philip would have used and made some caves with the white rock. And that's more for our earth eaters. Our earth eaters like a bit of caves where they can get a bit territorial. We've also put a nice piece of wood at the back for some aesthetics and just a few small plants in the front. We try to keep it as plain and simple as possible. We don't want too much things in the tank. Again, the tank is more for the fish. The ornaments is there for aesthetics. Okay, so we've just set up the tank. We made sure that the floor was level. Just a couple of things we need to speak about. As you can see, we've included the bubbles. Okay, so what's this for is, you can have a look over here. We've hid away the air pipe so that you don't see it. It's hidden away in the back. And we've actually fed the air pipe through the overflow box. And connected to the air pipe, I'm not sure if you can see in the video, we have non-return valves. These are one-way valves. It's very important as it prevents the backflow of water from the air stone through the pipe and into the air pump. So that's very important. So something we forgot to mention was the bubbles. As you can see, we've already plugged it on. The bubbles obviously breaks the water surface and creates oxygen for the fish. Our internal filters are plugged on. Our heater is plugged on now. Our sump is running. Okay, we spoke about water level earlier. As you can see, the water level there, we can make it rise just a little bit more, just below this last piece of glass here. Okay, so what happens is the water will overflow into there, the pump will suck it up and it will get pushed back into the tank from here. Just to note, a key point to note when filling up the tank is used a hose pipe. Okay, now the reason for that is because there was no fish in the tank. However, going forward, once you have fish in the tank, we always recommend you to first fill the bucket, treat that water in the bucket, and then put the water into your tank, and don't put the hose pipe directly into the tank. Now, there's a number of reasons for that, because number one, you need to make sure that the water in the bucket match each other. Also, the shock, the fish can get a shock with just the direct flow of water being too cold. They can get a shock, or get chlorine poisoning from the water directly from the tap. When setting up a tank, it's vitally important to make sure you put anti-chlorine and to put your product that adds bacteria. So today we're going to be using AquaGuard Plus. Okay, so you do get the number of different anti-chlorines on the market, but I particularly like this particular product as it also stabilizes the pH for the fish. It will detoxify ammonia, it will take away chlorine, chloramine, and will add important B vitamins when I add fish later. So it will basically get the water ready for the fish. So we're going to add some now. Right.
And on another side, I got the ultra yogurt. We add a live bacteria in the system. As we say, we need to cycle the tank, that the water can be alive, that the fish they can be all right later.
So the Ultra BioGuard will basically seed all the biological media at the bottom and provide the necessary bacteria that we need to start the ecosystem. Okay guys, so now that we've set up the tank, you'll notice something that the water is a little bit milky and not so clear. Now this can be for a number of reasons. Number one, maybe the filter media wasn't washed properly or the rock wasn't washed properly, but it's very, very common and it's nothing to stress about. The water will clear up, just give it 2 or 3 days. It's completely normal and completely natural to look like this when setting up the tank. Please remember to like, subscribe and share, and let me know in the comment section below what you think about this video.